welcome to the International Investment Leadership Summit for 2023. With me here today, we have the esteemed CEOs, Group Head of Sales and Marketing, Global Head of Sales of the biggest companies in our industry. So guys, let me just go around the table and welcome you all. First off, I'd like to welcome Stephen Atkinson, who's Global Head of Sales from Upmost. Stephen, welcome.
Thank you.
Next to Stephen, we have Graham Sheward, who is CEO of Hansard Global. Welcome, Graham.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again. We didn't see you, this is an annual event now. We didn't see you last year, but it's good to welcome you back.
Thank you very much.
Andy Finch from Canaccord Genuity Wealth International and Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management as well.
Yes, so Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management is the brand that we would trade under. There's a number of companies that sit behind the brand. But good to be here.
Welcome back, Andy. Really excited to have Ariel Amigo, Global Head of Sales and Marketing from Investors Trust. Ari, welcome back, and thank you for travelling all the way from Miami once again.
Thank you for having me.
And last but not least, we have David Kneeshaw, CEO of IFGL. David, always a pleasure. Great to have you on board.
Good to be here.
So let's start the chat and throw this hot potato around the room straight away, and let's talk about AI. How are you currently using AI within your businesses, if at all? And is AI a vital opportunity for the cross-border industry? Or is it a genuine threat to the products and advice world as we know it? I'm going to start straight away with Stephen. AI, good, bad, indifferent, what's your thoughts?
Okay, we're currently using it, we're testing it on the ops side, a couple of sort of proof of concepts, but we're slightly concerned just because we have to download an awful lot of data to these large language models, and we've no idea where it's going and who's going to use it. So we're looking at using it, but we're treading very, very softly. We're using it in the marketing department because it's a lot easier for idea generation and just tidying stuff up. And I've used it to try and write board reports, but I need to learn how to do the prompting, I think, a little bit better. Is it a threat or an opportunity? I would say it's both. And just to quote a couple of numbers I've thrown at me recently, the Amazon R&D budget is $80 billion a year. If that was a country, that would make it the 8th or 9th largest country for R&D, just to put it in perspective. And the bulk of that's going to be slanted towards AI, so you wonder what they're going to develop with all that cash. One of the large PE firms has got 50 dedicated data scientists actually working on AIs to help them manage their portfolios and help their portfolio companies actually become more efficient as well. So you wonder what that's going to throw out in terms of tools. Obviously, AI is relatively young. ChatGPT is less than a year old, so I keep thinking back to when sort of the first computers came out, Sinclair's ZX80. It was a 64-bit machine, by the way, just to put in perspective, and how that's sort of developed since. So if we're at the very beginning of AI and ChatGPT and all the other models, just where are we going to be in 4 or 5 years? So I'm sure we're going to have these fantastic models to help us run our business, but all those models will be available to the public in plugins or whatever, all available on their phone, on their little supercomputer in their pocket. So it's a threat or opportunity, bit of both.
Absolutely. I'll zing across the table to David. David, you guys are senior people within large organisations. David, you're the CEO. How do you plan for something like this and something that's extremely unknown? How do you plan for it? And also the first question as well.
Well, surely we didn't plan for AI. If I look back 18 months, it wasn't really on our radar at all. We have put in some robotic processes, which is, I guess, a sort of baby version of AI. But we have been in the process of completely refiguring our IT roadmap, partly around the purchase of Friends Provident, which we've now completed that process of rebuilding systems away from Aviva. And the next stage is looking at integrating systems around all the back book. And the third stage is looking at how technology can be used to enhance our relationship with advisors and their customers. So for us, we are reconfiguring the roadmap to see how could AI fit into all of those, And it'll be in a bit about the integration of processes and systems and a bit about dealing with customers. But I don't see it as a threat. I just see it as really a service enhancement. Where there might be a threat is in those areas of the market, say something like motor insurance, where there's a compulsory need, a formulaic process, which is where AI might and can get involved. But the world we live in of high net worth individuals with complex bespoke needs and advisors who are holding clients' hands through that process, I don't think AI is going to rush in and take over that anytime soon. So I don't really see it as a threat to our sector of the market at all.
Andy, what about your part of the world? Because you're dealing, with investments. You're looking, you're managing money within funds. The AI is going to be doing that. The AI is going to be, or is it already doing it with benchmark and structured products?
So no, I don't think it is doing it at the moment, and I'm a little bit in the camp of I think it's too early to tell. The one thing I've learned in my working life is I'm not very good at predicting the future, and I think it's too early to tell for some of that. I think we need to break down the various parts of businesses that we run. So from a business like ours, from the investment decision making, I can certainly see AI having that role to play in analysing large amounts of data. Stephen talks about data. I think that's like cutting and dicing. So some of that quant type work. I think the qualitative overlay will be done by human beings for the foreseeable future. And I agree with David's points about the high net worth clients. So I joined a business 22 years ago. We were just at the end of the dot-com bust. So we'd had the boom, we were at the bust. Well, why are you joining a stockbroking business, Andy? Because the internet's just going to eat your lunch. And the thing that we discover is that year in, year out, clients value the opportunity to engage with another human being and have that conversation. And I think, I'm not sure that AI turns up to lunch and knows its way around the wine list and can engage in that conversation. So I think, there are parts of our sector where I think I can see some of those advantages coming through. And I think specifically, maybe we've got similar issues as businesses. We work in relatively small islands with small populations. So perhaps embracing AI for some of those roles that are challenging to find people. But I think that does stray into robotics a little bit, and some of that is a bit straight through processing as opposed to the intelligence aspect of it. But
we've got two more people to ask. It feels like the person that we asked last is at the disadvantage in some respects. So it's kind of an either or. I'm going to go with Graham. You're big on technology, as is Ari, as is Investors Trust. You guys have always been at the cutting edge. What are you doing with AI, and what's your thoughts on it?
I'm going to mirror already quite a bit of what's been said, I guess. So operationally, we definitely see value, again, in using data to make tasks easier, to help advisors and policyholders, and indeed our colleagues in terms of the processing that they do. But for sort of more generative AI, where effectively it's mimicking human intelligence, I think we're probably at the start of that. It feels like we're at the start of that journey. And in a traditional, financial advice-based world, will it be trusted by investors in the future? I guess there's a generation out there that certainly a couple before me that use these tools every day, and it will become more and more a matter of course for them. And so there may come a point where they do absolutely expect to be advised by a machine based on human intelligence, but that may still be some way off. And I guess for our generation, it's obviously a very, very new concept. Hansard's small enough to ensure that we still have people interposed into everything we do, and we highly value that, both from a advisory and a service, face-to-face service perspective. So we're going to watch this space.
Ari, tell us your thoughts on AI.
A little bit of everything, right? I feel that a lot has been said already. I think it's too early to tell, definitely. I think I see this more as an opportunity than a threat. straight processing. I think AI can be very helpful to increase productivity in general, especially operationally. That definitely I see an angle there. We try to use it as you did with ChatGPT was out and how we can create content, etc. But we tried it, and it was a lot of editing, and we felt at the end of the day that it was better to stick with humans for now, and that's what we did. But I think investor trust, as you said, always looking at technology advances, and I think this is going to be very important in the future, and we are going to jump on it when the time is right. That's the way I see it now.
The thing that really strikes me about this new technology is that we've all willingly given the information to these master companies, the FANG companies that are out there, and we just keep piling on all of the information. My brain is so big, right? I've got quite a big head, so maybe I've got a big brain in here, but it's only so big. It's not the universe, right? So the AI brain is like everybody's brain. So that to me seems like a genuine threat in the investment world as much as anything. It seems that that it could be that the AI advisor will be, or the AI investment firm will be launching products soon. Can you see that, Andy?
Yeah. So I think we need to differentiate between the investment philosophy and process and the making of decisions that are appropriate for a client's risk profile, and the way that we deliver that advice. I think there's two separate bits to that. And we also need to throw into the mix increasingly suitability of what we're delivering to our clients is the key measure on which the regulator is going to judge us. Whether performance is good or bad is almost a slightly secondary issue for that. So I do think there's the research, the driving of that, the ability, as I say, to cut and dice huge amounts of data between the really teasing out what is this money all about to you, Mr. Client. The lady that's recently divorced and looking to establish what she wants to do. And I do think for today, the ability to tease out some of those points in conversation, that works quite well for people in the industry, teasing all of that out. So what's that going to be, like 1,000 question fact find online? If not A, then go to C or whatever. So I'm not saying that we won't get there. I'm sure we will do. I just don't think it's just yet. I think it's too early to tell.
I think we have to be careful not to see AI as the same thing as automated processing and advancement in technology. For example, at Ardan, we've put in automated online processing, which requires no human intervention and is done by the advisor. But that's not necessarily AI. AI seems to me more focused on the qualitative, discursive aspects rather than straightforward automation and knowledge or learning based. And I don't see clients giving up that ability to interact with an advisor in a personal capacity anytime soon. They might do it through Zoom or Teams, but they're still having a conversation with a human being. And I don't think the high net worth advisor-led market should be that fearful of AI anytime soon.
I tend to agree with you, David, but I think my concern is not that they're going to suddenly swap and be speaking to Max Headroom on a computer, but they're going to be able to turn up at a meeting having done a hell of a lot more prep, and you might not be able to get the same margins as we were getting sort of 5-10 years ago. So I think the threat is the sort of that margin compression rather than being replaced by a robot. And I'm rather hoping, I agree with you, Andy, I'm rather hoping nobody can replace somebody choosing a wine at lunch, because I'll be out of a job. So that's but I think it will have an impact on margins rather than a replacement of the advisor.
So I think it's a good point, but just one thing I might disagree on slightly with that is that, so all of that information is out there, so that presupposes the client has got the time, the inclination, and the confidence to do it themselves. So in businesses like ours and some of your introducers and advisors, the whole reason for existing is that some clients are very time poor, actually, so they do want to find somebody that can help them with that. So so I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm a little bit I reckon the next 10 years or so we're not quite going to get there.
I think we're not even close to separate the human component of advice by any sort of tool based on AI. as one not even close. I agree with David on that.
Well, obviously to prepare for today, I thought I'll just I asked ChatGPT to design me a portfolio based on 2 large asset managers and their underlying data. And then so that how do I do a sort of Monte Carlo simulation, all these potential I mean, it's just so if you know how to prompt, I think, and I do not know how to prompt, but I think as people get used to being able to prompt, I mean, the thing just asks you questions and you keep responding. It's not, you're not having to go search for it, it's asking you. So
yeah, but it's going to be more like a tool for the IFA more than
I think
anything.
my point is, if it's a tool for the IFA, it will be a tool for the client. The client will get prepared. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not. And I can't see my mum and dad doing this, but I can certainly see my daughter doing it. They're just going to be better prepared for the meeting. It's the margin I'm concerned about more than being replaced at lunch.
It's interesting. There was predictions around the likes of Amazon. What markets are they going to go into next? They haven't entered into financial services. That's a different kind of threat. Can you imagine that happening? You know, Elon Musk's dabbled with the crypto world. Can you see these global dominators trying to get a piece of the investment world as well? Just quickly.
Retail, yes.
I think it'll be an intergenerational thing as well, won't it? So people that are growing up in that environment where Amazon is what they've only known and it's their main route to the high street, so to speak. So I think there's that intergenerational change. I think it is interesting that the likes of Amazon haven't done this. You have kind of Apple playing around the edges with credit cards and such like in the States and for that. So that was a bit of perhaps a warning shot across the bows for many providers. Hasn't really got there just yet. I'm not sure that they've given up that fight just yet. So I think what we're talking there though is a business that considers itself to be a trusted brand, trying to widen out its product offering. But I think that will be where the client is self-selecting and the client is making that decision. And I think we need to, the world and people that we deal with will be split between those that are happy to do an execution service and those that want some advice.
Good answers. Thank you, everybody. That's a good way to start this debate. Let's talk about products now. And this is, maybe you can give us a taster, or maybe you can give us a prediction of where the international advice and products world is going to be in 2024. Do we see any changes, and individually within each of your companies? What kind of products are you looking for this year? I'm going to start with Ari because we finished with you last time. Ari.
Okay, no problem. When I think about 2024, really, my mind is not in thinking about products at this point. We have launched a variety of products lately, and we see that I would say sample out there is very good for the current market. What I look at is this geopolitical instability that is out there for the market. That's really where my concern is right now. And a year ago we were talking about the Ukrainian-Russian conflict and how that was impacting markets, and we discussed about being a time for a lot of hand-holding for clients with all the turbulence out there. And now a year forward, where we are, that conflict continues. We're adding extra conflict to the Middle East. The impact that could have in commodity pricing. We have an interest rate environment that is much higher than before. So I'm really thinking about market turbulence. I'm thinking about how clients are going to feel next year and what we can do from our place to comfort them and to tell them once again about long-term perspective, long-term goals, rather than any particular product.
That's a good answer. Graham?
Yeah, I'd echo Ari's sentiment there. I mean, when we look at investor sentiment, it's being influenced in a sort of still in a post-COVID environment by geopolitical uncertainty. That's creating market volatility. That's fueling inflation, and that of course impacts people's cost of living. So savings and investments might not be quite as front and centre in this environment as they would be in a more stable macroeconomic environment. So that I guess is the bigger picture, and on a sort of Hansard level in terms of product development. We're continuing to innovate, and we're hoping to launch some new products to the market in 2024, and we're designing more and more of those in collaboration with advisors specifically. So I think that investment products will need to be more bespoke than they have been in the past going forward, and designed around a target audience and or a target market for them to resonate. So that's the sort of approach we're taking at the moment.
Some of the larger advisory firms are designing their own products. They've got their own. I'm looking at what Devere are doing in Mauritius at the moment. You know, they've taken on 60 new staff, and they're doing all kinds of things. David, when it comes to products, when you look around, you look at you're managing, is it 4 or 5 brands now as CEO of IFGL. When it comes to products, are you happy with what you've got, or are you looking to add or take away something, anything for the next 12 months?
I would never say we're happy with what we got, because we always want to improve, and also the advisors tell us that they want us to come up with new ways of doing things. But again, I think I would differentiate between brand new products that are completely different, as opposed to enhancements to products, service benefits, tweaks, online capabilities. So that's going on all the time, as I'm sure it is with lots of other companies. And that's how I see our development. Online capability, the way in which you collect premiums on regular contracts, the ability to download data straight into advisor systems. That's a very important one. As advisors get more grown up about their back office infrastructure, they're looking to have automated conversations with our back office, not get spreadsheets or whatever. So I see the development as improving and developing and tweaking products and making them more sophisticated with use of better technology, rather than a new product as such.
Stephen, you've got a few, similar with IFGL. You guys have got a number of brands there, all had competing products. How's that looking now for the client base? And are you gonna? Is it more about streamlining products for Utmost, or do you have a few things up your sleeve for 2024?
I mean, we're all one brand now. I mean, that was I think we've got the last few weeks of the separation agreement with Quilters, which I think is, fortunately, that's another team of people. But we are all one brand. And in terms of product, obviously when we took Quilters just over 2 years ago, the first thing we did was to go through all the products. So it was, again, just one set of products for the market. But in terms of product development, it's similar to everybody else. I mean, we're doing little iterations all over. But the biggie for us next year, we kicked it off 6 months ago, but the biggie for us next year is onshore France, the France local market. It's the biggest in Europe. There's no real serious Irish player in the space. It's all Luxembourg players. We've got a distinct advantage coming out of Ireland, so we're spending an awful lot of money to go for that market. But it's not going to be easy. I mean, we were doing the research, just to give you some idea of the difficulty. When we're doing the research, some of the partners in France would say, but because it's going to be an island. What about Brexit? Mm-hmm. Well, Ireland is in Europe, but they're still thinking, they thought we were coming out, they'd left. So we've got an awful lot of cultural stuff to overcome. But France, we'd really like to crack France. That's our biggie.
Interesting. Andy?
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts there. So we're not really in the product space, more services for what we do. But I think that what collectively we need to be thinking about is that we've already talked about margin compression and the challenges. I think the thing about access and availability of information to clients, that's definitely pushing them down a road and making more informed decisions. And I think one of the key tenets of that is going to be about delivering value for money to the clients. I think that will be that significant drive. Obviously in the UK, we've got the consumer duty that's coming to play, and some of the rules around that, and kind of where the FCA leads, lots of other regulators are going to follow. So I think in terms of all of our planning, accepting that we've got to work a bit harder, we're going to generate less revenue doing so, and clients are going to expect a higher level of service and delivery for their returns. And I think that, in terms of all of our thinking about services and products, is going to be a key driver for the industry.
We had a survey in the room at the Middle East, International Investment Middle East Forum recently. Great presentation by Phil Story from Investors Trust. We used and he was very brave, by the way. He used 3 different apps at once with a clicker. I don't know how he did it. It confused me, and he did it, and he managed. And was it Slide? Not he had Slido on the go, and then he had the one where it's the surveys, and so the room answered. And what was really interesting, and this is the Middle East, by the way. What are your priorities? And you had to sort of select them in order. It was your top 3, and commission was on there, and there was a bunch of others, client service, etc., etc. And commission came last as the thing that drives your business and that people are thinking. So, with that in mind, looking at next year, the year ahead, can you ever see a day when commission's gone and it's all fee-based? Can you ever see that happening in the international space?
Not in my grandchildren's lifetime, no. I mean, there's been a drive. I mean, that's probably more so that there are advisors now that we deal with that are more aligned with the RDR basis. But I was just on the phone to one of our offices this morning, and they're talking about wanting more commission. So I mean, you can't. Certain markets, it's going to be a long slog. But I think the markets that are dealing with the expats, we are seeing them more RDR aligned. The markets that are dealing with locals, we're still seeing reasonable requests for commission.
Interesting. What about you, David?
I think it's similar. We're seeing a big move towards an AMC charging structure, and our analysis shows that commission has come down quite a lot compared to, say, 7 or 8 years ago. But it's still there. But I have no problem with that because it's all explained, it's all up front. And I think clients are quite happy to pay it, and sometimes it reduces the AMC. So I think commission is still around, but I see little evidence from the advisors we work with that they're trying to put commission up. Most of the business owners now see AMC as the way forward. Remember, there's a difference between the business owner and sometimes the individual consultant. And I think in the past, there was sort of some of the business owners were worried that if they reduce front-end commission and put in AMC, the individual consultants might not be happy. And that was probably a reasonable fear at the time. But the world's moved on, and our understanding now that increasing number of individual advisors quite like the AMC model because they see that in X years' time, they're going to build up a nice little recurring income stream. So I think the trend for us is what we experience is that commission is coming down to be replaced by AMC. But I think there's room for both as long as it's clearly explained.
It wasn't in the original questions, but Ari, remember when we did the LATAM forum? It didn't. I think we went around the room and we got hands up who's fee based, and there weren't any hands that flew in the air there, were there? Can you see it happening at any point in the future?
I do think so. I believe also that it really depends on clients. It depends on the size of the clients. More retail clients, I think commission are going to stick around for longer. When you're looking at more affluent, high net worth individuals, pretty much everyone have moved to a fee-based model. And I think more of that is going to happen. As David was saying, I think there's always a space for both systems as long as they're proper communicated to clients, and both are going to coexist for many years.
I would agree that where we see the slowest trend for reducing commission is in Latin America.
Yeah,
compared to some of the other regions.
Yeah, not many hands up.
Maybe it was my northern accent again, and they were just kind of looking.
No. Also, you have to look at the clientele. More retail, smaller amounts, and IFAs, need those commissions to get paid up front in order to give proper service to the clients. But as long as it's proper communicated.
Let's move off commission for a second and look about something that I think it seems to be coming to the fore. Let's talk about education. How vital is education to a successful industry? How do you ensure your company's working with advisors and advisors with the clients to help them deliver the best solution? Let's start with Graham. What's your thoughts on financial services education?
Well, it's an integral part of our sector. is very important. I mean, the way that at Hansard that we support education for advisors is evolving. I think historically we would have organised training events that generated CPD points, and we still do that if there's a demand. We're sort of moving a little bit more towards more value-added services in areas that are of increased significance in an advisory world, and that actually is online and digital. So we sort of turn our marketing department sort of inside out, and they're able to support advisors on digital media, online presence, social media campaigns, and so that's been an evolution, of late.
I mean, is it needed? I'll come to you, Ari, because you've created something that's potentially slightly different that's out there. Is it absolutely necessary? Shouldn't these qualified advisors already be up to speed? Why is it necessary?
But it's still a key component of our industry, and it's not a matter of being prepared, but just continue to being prepared and up to date with new regulations and new information in the market. No, we, as a matter of fact, earlier this year, which was the biggest project that we did this year, was to launch ITA University. It's a project that we've been working on for a couple of years. We were looking for the right educational, I would say, paths to work with, and we have right now a great program built with IE University from Madrid and also the CFA Institute that it provides an educational path to our advisors. No, you're going to have this possibility to have in your portal multiple courses that you can do as you go. It's on demand. You can do them over a period of time, and you are building that path over the years with different topics that we provide to the IE University, for example, and they build the course for us. It's fully online. You get your certification, and it's something that we're very excited about. As a matter of fact, also, we just launched the first course last week with many participants, more than expected, and they're all happy doing it online. It's been a great feedback. And I think, as I said, key component of our industry.
Stephen, what's your take on education? Because this is like the relationship between the provider and the advisor. This is an ongoing thing, isn't it? You work together over a number of years. You're at the beck and call. Do you think something like that ITA have set up is something you could see yourself setting up? How do you look at education?
I mean, we're probably doing similar things, but just in different ways. So, but I think during COVID, obviously we stopped doing the face-to-face stuff, and we did a lot more online, and we've continued to do the online stuff. And I've just been amazed by how many people turn up at these webinars. I mean, on what seemed quite mundane, and like if we run something on taxation within trusts or top slicing, we've had 900 people on one of those. I mean, it's just in the UK, obviously UK, but some overseas markets as well. So we're doing a mixture, basically. We're doing the webinars, we're doing the sort of thought leadership bits. I mean, I hate that phrase, the technical notes. And what we're trying to do is just trying to put our spin on stuff rather than just put out some dry, the tax rate's gone to this. We're trying to actually, what does it really then mean to people, rather than just this a list of tables. But I can't see us launching a university, if I'm being completely honest, but I can see us spending, we spend a fortune as it is, but I can see us spending more on the marketing side. I mean, whether it's marketing training, same thing for us, I suppose, for us. Just to stay out there. I mean, I think that we made a conscious decision with all this sort of market uncertainty, this market turmoil, is just to make sure we've increased our presence. Because so that if you look like you're running away, when things pick up, people remember. So, yeah.
David, what are your thoughts on this?
I think we, along with many of the other companies, have always provided quite a lot of background information and general sort of knowledge-based support to advisors. But each region seems to be slightly different. But if I take the Middle East as one example, there's no doubt that the advisors now have to be more qualified. They have to take their own exams. They have to be. There are sanctioned qualifications that they must ascribe to. So our support tends to be around the value add rather than the basic. So again, tax and trusts, we do lots of supporting individual firms, webinars, that sort of thing. So we do provide a lot of help and also standard help, but probably the USP for us is around the bespoke training on the complex areas that you don't get from standalone education. Tax and trust being one classic example. ESG investing, for example, is another where we've made a lot of effort into our ESG platform. So those sorts of areas we concentrate on, which have specific benefits.
Andy?
Yes, I think education is really important, and I think it's important for a number of reasons. So I'm sure everybody that represents their company would delight in having a conversation around why their product is different and the nuances of that. The reality is, broadly, there's a similar set of offerings that's out there. So I think in terms of enhancing our brand reputations and our relationships with the introducers, investing in that education, and I think that can help significantly as far as that's concerned. It's that why me element of it. Well, let me tell you why us. We're doing this. And I think coming back to your early question about the method that advisors build their business on from a remuneration perspective, actually, I'm a little bit agnostic whether it's commissions or fees, quite frankly. What advisors need to be able to do is to explain to their clients why the earnings they wish to generate are justified by the quality of the advice that they're delivering to the clients. Now, I think that can be a challenge if we look at some of the models of the past. So I think the education there, I think is quite important. And certainly, I think all our firms can add value to that. So for us as a business, it is a way of differentiating what we do in an ocean of similar looking services a lot of the time.
So let's talk about what's this year been like. It seems like it's been a tough year for the industry this year. So let's talk about growth. Where is growth coming from, and where do you expect your next growth to come from? And who wants to go first? Who wants to go first on growth?
I'll go first simply because it's simple and it's short. We're a listed company, so everyone can see where we do business, and we're just going to carry on doing what we think we're good at, and focus on those traditional markets, together with the product improvements that everybody spoke about earlier on. But it's no secret that Hansard's been building a Japan proposition under its investment license in that territory for quite some time, and we've been doing that for a very good reason. We think that's where our future growth will come from in the near future.
How's that looking for 2024?
Well, yeah, there's a high degree of confidence that 2024 will be the year for the Japan proposition. Yeah.
And you've been building other products around the similar.
Yeah, I suppose that sort of speaks to one of your previous questions around commission. Coming back to commission, I think what we find is that for how long upfront commission is going to be around to a large extent is dictated by the regulator in the markets that we serve, and we're seeing increasing regulation in those markets, and so some of our product development is looking to build new product shapes that meet regulatory scrutiny. There are better client outcomes within the product, and there's still remuneration to be shared around, more on a sort of a trail basis, so the advisor builds an annuity income for the future rather than just having a sort of upfront commission. So that's where some of our product development effort is going, and so that we're ready, when new regulatory requirements come into play.
Fair enough. David?
I think at best, in general, it's a flat market. In fact, we're slightly down on last year, about 15%, and we're happy to say that. However, within that figure, there's an awful lot of subtlety. So some regions are actually up. UK, for example, we're up in the UK. Ardan is considerably up. Some regions are struggling more than others, and some products are doing better than others. So there's a whole matrix. But overall, 10 to 15% down we anticipate for this year. Where will growth come from? We are pretty clear that Ardan will continue to grow. We're pretty clear that our new pensions, IFG pensions, will grow. We are also heavily influenced by the shape of the stock market. And if confidence returns, then the markets will go up and people will return. And also if the markets go up, our fees go up. So there's also a lot of moving parts to the new business. We also, and it's no secret, we have new investment backers, and we will also anticipate growth through more acquisitions. Not necessarily in the insurance space, but I would hope that there would be something there, and maybe in some of the other ancillary areas like we did with pensions and Ardan. So I think growth can come organically, but we are linked to the market, but also through acquisition.
I mean, talking of acquisitions and growth, Stephen.
Do you want the challenge? Do you want the acquisitions and growth, or do you want the markets?
Let's stay with growth for
Okay.
the first bit. But in terms of, it'll lead us nicely on to another question.
Okay.
We'll let the rest of the table.
I would say, I mean, Dave describes it flat out, so it's been pretty challenging, depending on the markets. And we've done okay in our big markets, but the standout ones for us this year, like the Portugal onshore, the native Portuguese people, with like the private banking product, same for Spain, same for Sweden. So that high net worth business through the private banking space seems to have been less impacted than the retail space. But next year, I've said, France, we say we're putting an awful lot. And for the last God knows how many years, I've been sort of playing, it's going to be the Far East. But I finally think we're seeing a glimmer of hope in the high net worth space in the Far East. We sort of CRS and worldwide taxation. It just seems to be getting a bit more traction than it has done previously. So I'm thinking, but I've been wrong every year for like 20 odd years on the Far East. So, but I continue to back it. And LATAM, I think because of our experience with Portugal this year, where we've seen an awful lot of people move to Portugal or move their funds to Portugal, we're starting to see it from the other LATAM markets as well. So I think we're going to see a bigger shift next year, again in that private banking space as opposed to the retail space. So that's where we're placing the bets.
Interesting. Andy?
I think it's one of the toughest environments in my 4 years in the industry. Honestly, Gary, it's very, very challenging at the moment. And I think there are a number of reasons for that challenge. Maybe we'll come back to education as part of that. But so we've had what should have been the boom time for our industry the last 15 years, because we haven't had to worry about inflation from a client's perspective, and we haven't had the competition of high interest rates in the banks. And obviously we have those to consider. So part of the education process, certainly for businesses like mine, is we've got an entire generation of investment managers that have never worked in that environment. And it does bring a really different set of challenges. So ditto the advisors that we're dealing with. So I think there's an education process there. And I was chatting to an advisor just yesterday that was telling me that one of their clients just sold a house, had a decent 7-figure sum to do something with. So let's have a chat about it. What are we going to do? He said, I can kind of get 6.25% with Lloyds Bank, 12-month deposit. Yeah. Think of that. So let me tell you about inflation and real returns. No, he said, I think I'm just going to put it in the bank. And so I do think that challenge is absolutely there. The other challenge for a business like ours, we've got quite a lot of wealthy families, and there's that intergenerational. So 3 years ago, the daughter was buying her first house. They kind of help with a minimum deposit, borrow as much as you can because money's cheap. Whereas today, we're seeing that challenge of they want to put much bigger deposits down. And quite frankly, they're taking money out of portfolios to pay down the debt. So I think it's a tough operating environment. Well, therefore, we need to look at ourselves quite carefully and think, are we offering that value for money to the clients? And for us, that's about exploring new areas. So perhaps that's moving more, if we're looking at a UK focus, into gilt portfolios. If you're looking at opportunities in that space where yields can be attractive, if people are prepared to have that ladder holding to maturity, the returns can look pretty secure from that perspective. So I do think, again, there is that challenge, and it is a very tough environment.
Ari, let's talk about growth.
Okay.
How's things looking, and where's the next growth coming from, and the current growth?
Okay. 2023 has been a good year for us. We think that we are going to be getting to our forecast that we put together at the end of last year. It's been mostly emerging markets, and in particularly Latin America. Latin America has been phenomenal for us so far this year. And I believe that next year there's going to be probably a change more to Far East, Asia Pacific, with China getting back on track, and also Middle East. Those are the areas where I believe growth is gonna come on 2024. But going back to what Andy's saying, and it kind of ties up with the previous point of markets being so unstable. I think the combination of inflation, interest rate, geopolitical risks is going to be really large next year, with a lot of people understanding some of the risks, and it's going to be a challenge for all of us to bring them over.
I think when you look at the news at the moment, and you haven't seen Ukraine on the news for over a week because of the
for the wrong reasons
in Gaza, and these geopolitical situations, it feels like we're on the. I mean, I don't want to be Nostradamus, but it feels like both of these conflicts are bigger than they look. Everybody seems to be weighing in, taking sides, and these kind of divisions that are being created. It's just going to get worse next year, isn't it?
Well, I don't think we can use it as an excuse from clients. If clients are paying us to help them with their requirements, I mean, I can't remember which Prime Minister. Events, dear boy, events. There's always stuff, isn't there? There's always, I think it is not great at the moment for what you've mentioned, but I think that's there always in the background. So it's about looking for those opportunities to deliver value to our clients over the term. But from a growth perspective, for us, we become quite a big player in our domestic market, so therefore it's about looking slightly further afield. We talk about the Middle East. We're in the throes of gaining regulatory status to open the office in Dubai. Very excited by that opportunity. Looking out, so Latin America for us via the cross-border life co's also a market that we've not really looked at historically, and we're putting a bit of time and energy into exploring that, and I think there are some opportunities that come there. So I think growth is there. Everything is a bit harder work at the moment, though.
So is that like an international investment exclusive? The new. I mean, I think it's nice to
Let's get to your editing point, and we'll decide if we can talk about that or
not. when will I? Well, yeah, let's talk about it later. You mentioned, David. You mentioned about looking for potential future acquisitions. I mean, at the table here, we've got Utmost and IFGL. You guys have kind of eaten all of the companies. Is there anything left on the table, and is that a good thing for the industry? Is it a good thing to have two giants and a few smaller companies? And it's the same in the advice industry as well. First off, is it a good thing for you guys to get too big? Discuss.
I think we're a long way off being too big. I also think there's plenty of competition. When I look around the markets, I see plenty of companies who we have to compete with. Sometimes it's protection, sometimes against local clients and providers, sometimes it's the international firms from the Isle of Man. So in every market, it's always slightly different. And each region has its own challenges. So there's a long way before I think you could say Utmost or IFG are sort of that big that anybody should be concerned. I think the advisors need choice, and I still think there's plenty of choice, even in the Middle East. If I look around, there's new people coming in. There's platforms, for example, not just offshore bond providers. So I think there's plenty of room for everyone. But I think what people want, also advisors want and clients want, is to know the company they deal with, that it's safe, that it's strong. These days, you have to have scale to absorb the huge costs that get ever bigger, regulatory and otherwise, technology, etc. So I think being bigger has its advantages for the customer and the advisor. We can commit, and we've just spent £35 million extricating Friends Provident from the Aviva systems. We couldn't have done that as a much smaller company. It's the fact that we've got bigger that we can make that investment with the backing of our shareholders. So I think whether we're big or not is not the issue. The issue is, are you making life better for the advisors and the clients? And that's where the USP comes from. It's service delivery, relationship, a perception of commitment by the advisor and the client. All those things are add up. And I don't think being big or otherwise is on its own the crucial factor.
Stephen, I'm throwing it straight back over to you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is getting to a reasonably dangerous level. If there was another 2 or 3 companies that were consolidated or something else, then I think we could end up certain companies having too dominant a position in the marketplace, which isn't good. I mean, I can't think the regulator will be overly happy as well, and I don't think it's good for the industry. No, I'm not sure how that will occur, about who by whom or whatever, but I think it would be quite it'd be quite tricky. I can't speak for Paul and Ian as to what their next move is, but I think it'd be tricky to actually. I think it'd be certainly tricky for us to buy somebody in the Isle of Man, for instance. I think for both of us, I think I'm not sure whether the Isle of Man regulator would be overly happy. So, I mean, I can't see newcomers, new entrants into the marketplace. The barriers to entry to have a new life company are just off scale. I mean, as David mentioned, if you haven't got the size and scale to dilute all these costs, which you need from day one now, you just can't come in. So it's I wouldn't like to see too much more consolidation, from being honest. I think there might be some consolidation within Luxembourg, because there's some small Luxembourg players that probably should lash themselves together, but I can't see too much else.
That's quite a narrow definition of what M&A and consolidation is about. So you've got, if you're just talking about offshore bonds,
I'm just talking about offshore bonds. Yeah.
But if you're looking at the platform market, there's huge amounts of small subscale platforms out there where I think M&A might be suitable for them. You've mentioned Luxembourg. Pensions administration is a cottage industry across the UK. Large numbers of tiny providers. We see opportunities there, and we believe the regulator is looking for stronger, more substantially backed companies in that sector. So I think there's huge amounts of scope. But if you're just talking offshore bonds, Isle of Man, then that might be a bit more difficult.
I'm talking offshore bonds, Isle of Man, Ireland, Luxembourg, but I was purely life insurance. Yeah.
Ari, one thing that struck me when we were doing the LATAM event, you've got some great relationships across. You're doing very well in the LATAM region at the moment. It seems that everybody. Where are the guys doing other bits of business? Is it? If you look back over a number of years, we had something called tied agents. We had the insurance man and people were tied agents. Are we in a danger of potentially going down that route again, where it's a one-stop shop for each advisory company, where they only deal with one company, or is there plenty to go around among all of the providers?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not really concerned about it, and I'm not really concerned about the level of consolidation. Of course, we are taking a different route, an organic growth route. But I was thinking on something that actually David said, which is commitment. No, all these companies, yes, there've been a lot of consolidation, but they've been consolidating some companies that were smaller, that were a tiny part of a huge holding, global holding, dealing with a lot of products in different jurisdictions, that they were not really paying too much attention to our industry and our particular market. With all the companies on this table, they are. So I think even though, yes, 15 years ago you had active 12, 15 companies around the world in this particular industry, and now you have 4 or 5. Those 4 or 5 are more committed. There's a lot of products around. There's a lot of options for clients and AFAs. So I think it's okay. I don't see this as a problem.
In your world, Andy, you're in a similar kind of position. You don't have. There is competition out there, but it's. I mean, you've got some of the huge companies that you're competing against as well. But how do you view this? And ultimately, when it comes down to the advisor, is there enough out there? Are there enough products? And are there enough opportunities for them to? Are there enough opportunities for them to work with companies like yours?
Yeah, I think absolutely they are. So I think if I just focus on one area, so if I look at our partners that sit around the table today, and we've got 20 plus year relationships with some of the firms represented here today. So why is that? So our core offering to the international advisor is the outsourcing of investment process. We're going to take care of asset allocation, asset selection, and we're going to package that up in a number of risk-profiled funds that they're able to help their clients select from, demonstrate that they're doing suitability. And I think that the market has gradually moved in our direction over the years. It's increasingly rare to have a conversation with an advisor who perceives themselves to be the expert investment manager who's constructing a portfolio in their spare half an hour on a Thursday afternoon, because that's been the history of some of those. So I think, so we do that. I think we understand that market quite well. We know that turning up at the right place at the right time matters a great deal, and the support. So I think our experience in that market is significant. You know, we've gathered a lot of assets over the years doing that, and actually we see that as being a core activity going into the future.
Graham, you're the only listed company around the table. What's that like in comparison? And you know, when you're looking at at standing out, what makes you stand out? Is that one of the things that does make you stand out?
Well, it's self-evident. It is a USP. It's our USP, and it's one we're very proud of. And I'm not sure that advisors necessarily look to scale, for comfort, but they look for security, longevity, continuity, and Hansard's been around for 38 years. So we provide all of that to advisors, and as a profile's very different to the larger companies, and we use our sort of small scale to remain personal when dealing with advisors and clients, and innovative, agile. We can invest in technology. We're pretty well known for it in the past, and we're going to be doing it again in the very near future. So we're looking to launch some more sort of fintech solutions in 2024, and that's where our investment is currently focused.
I look around this room. I mean, one thing, I'm incredibly grateful to you all for getting together. This doesn't happen, does it? Can you imagine is there a dinner where or a table that you would all sit round and talk about the industry?
Well, David and I had dinner on last week.
Oh, there you go.
The Isle of Man has occasional get-togethers from an industry perspective. So, yeah. But you're right; it's not that common. I have quite a lot of one-to-one lunches, dinners, coffees with different chief executives, but not always in a group.
Well, thank you everybody. Thank you all for taking part in this year's International Investment Leadership Summit. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.